Welcome everybody to another edition of Let's Do Lunch. Today is Tuesday. It's our Future of Entertainment Day. We have a great show for you today. But first, let me invite everybody, ask everybody to please introduce yourselves in the chat. It's right on the bottom nav. And when you click it open, just like Jared did, hello, Jared, do what Jared did. Introduce yourself, say who you are, and you're welcome to drop in a link to your website or LinkedIn or whatever your favorite social channel is. When you make your introductions, though, also make sure to use the drop down that says all panelists and attendees so that everybody can see your intros and your comments in chat. If you have questions for the panel today, please put them in the Q&A area. Also on the bottom nav, you can see that just to the left of chat. And our fantastic moderator today will make sure to get to as many as he can. Okay, without further ado, let me introduce our speakers today. Sumit Parab is Head of Product, Digital Identity, and Commerce at Amdocs Media. Welcome, Sumit.
Hey, Ned, pleasure to meet you.
Great to have you on the show today. And our moderator, Colin Dixon, is Founder and Chief Analyst at Endscreen Media. Welcome, Colin.
Thank you, Ned. Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of a switch up here today.
You're usually on Mondays, so I'm a little thrown off.
So we're doing Tuesdays today, but we got a great session today. So thanks, Ned, for reminding everybody to please enter the questions in the Q&A window. If you enter them in the chat, I probably will not see them. And I got a feeling you're going to have some questions today because we're going to be talking about a really interesting topic. We're going to be talking about bundles with Sumit Parab. Sumit, so why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us quickly what you do, and then we're going to dive into bundles.
Sounds good. Hey, welcome everyone. I'm Sumit Parab. I'm the Head of Product for Vindicia MarketONE, based here in Toronto, and excited to be part of this chat.
Yep. And I'm down here in very sunny Northern California today. So you're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast, and well, I guess it works long distance. Okay, so let's jump in. Tell us about what's happening in the industry of bundles, because this is very much a trend now. I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot more bundles of content going forward. It's one thing that in the industry that I think we have been expecting is consolidation, but one way around that consolidation is to just do bundles. So what's going on in the industry with bundles, Sumit?
Sure. I mean, it's always good to take a step back and to think about, what's been happening. Like originally the bundles were there with pay TV, right? You had all these channels being combined together. You had great selection, but also came at the lack of choice. It was pretty expensive. There's a lack of choice, and you saw the rise of OTTs. And basically what happened, everyone was buying a whole bunch of OTTs, pretty much getting content fatigue. And so you had things that came up like Roku, that came up with light bundling, the ability to kind of like put all the content in a single screen, kind of have content first, organized in a single place, but you still have to purchase the content separately. It was kind of like a light aggregator. You come up with things such as, heavier bundles like Amazon channels, where you have content, but you can purchase additional content. And again, that was great when you have like this closed ecosystem where you're just managing everything in one view. The other things that you start seeing happening is this concept of organic bundles, right? Apple One is a great example, a big behemoth that's taking all their services and combining it into one. So you'll get the TV, you'll get the music, you'll get the cloud storage, all combined into one. Again, they bundle everything together up to 6 products with you, and the main thing is the cost savings, right? You get all these products and your savings is about 30 to 45% in terms of these bundles. And then you see what's happening with other players, right? They see that, hey, there's this big behemoth of Apple kind of bundling everything together. What else can be done? So you have like the Disney Plus bundles that are out there, combining content with Hulu and ESPN Plus, offering it at a discount. You also see things such as Spotify doing the same type of idea with their bundles that they do with Showtime and with Hulu, as well as experimenting with different things such as with Headspace as well, bundling together just to give a great compelling offer to the customer.
So we also, there's one type of bundle that we didn't mention was what the pay TV operators are doing. They're getting into the bundling game as well, aren't they?
Exactly. So they've seen that, if you can't bundle channels, let's actually do the whole concept of aggregation, right? So you'll see those examples with Verizon and offering 6 months free of Disney Plus, or you saw it before with T-Mobile and Quibi, or you've seen it with other players that are out there, AT&T with HBO Max. So those are kind of the bundles that you see trying to monetize off that OTT side of it, building on the content that they own, and kind of leveraging that kind of like that customer appeal to those brands to kind of create that stickiness to what they're already offering with the wireless and connectivity services.
Right. Okay, so that's the bundling that we're seeing in the market. Let's talk about the value. What's the value? What are the main value propositions for consumers here?
So on the consumer side, I'm thinking back to there was a study that came out from payments.com. Essentially, when you're looking at it, mostly like about 70%, would prefer a bundle if given the choice. The main things being, there's the value, you're saving money with it. You have the convenience of a single place to purchase everything. And you see that as more people buy these additional subscriptions, the higher the propensity to actually jump into a bundle. You see that customers with 6 or more subscription offerings, they're going to want, like 80% of them are going to want to have that everything bundled into a bundle offer. So you see that customers are looking for that price and that flexibility and choice to have those bundles to satisfy those needs.
Right. Are they looking for any? I mean, there's convenience issues here, right, as well, that might entice them in?
For sure. I mean, in terms of convenience, it's that single ability, that frictionless way to kind of sign up, that way to actually have that kind of that journey that allows you to purchase things in a single way. It isn't disparate flows that you have. You have this single way, a simple way to purchase something, and a simple way to access it as well, right? As you combine things together, you have that ability to have that simple kind of experience that you're looking for.
What about, one of the things that, although I think I'm probably like many people and really disliked the large pay TV bundles, one of the happy happenstances every now and again of being in those bundles was that you would stumble across something. Is that a big issue for consumers? Is that one thing that bundles deliver to them that they wouldn't otherwise ordinarily get?
Yeah, for sure. I think once you personalize that solution, depending on what it is, you have that ability to kind of have the discoverability, right? A good example is something that as you have cross application or cross service bundles, right? Like you have the Spotify with audio with video, or you have Spotify with Headspace. It's looking at those things that, hey, you know what? Or a combination of, let's say, a fitness subscription with some type of vitamin subscription. Those type of ideas are compelling to kind of create these new bundles that that users are looking for. Like there's amount of content fatigue that happens. So there's a great way to kind of look at that and say, okay, where can we kind of start making these bundles more horizontal that reflect what truly the users are looking for, really knowing your customers and finding out what they actually want. So
what are some of the other ways that these bundles are being constructed to be appealing to consumers? I mean, there's the sort of obvious bundles where you've got groups of channels that work together, like several, maybe a couple of fitness channels will get together. Are there other potential groupings here that could be interesting to consumers?
For sure. I think you look at if you go horizontal, like with fitness apps, you can look at a food service, right? Something with a box good where foods get delivered. Looking at more like the health conscious users. There's combinations of, let's say, gaming, or like I said before, with the music and video. Looking at something that makes sense for these users. Maybe there's a subscription to a magazine service that comes with the natural genre that you're part of. So let's say it's comic books. Like if Marvel would make like a book subscription along with a video subscription, that would be compelling to users. Or like a Comic-Con subscription where you can subscribe to comic books and as well as conventions together. That's something that's out there as well to attract users, not really looking at a single vertical of just videos, but across the board.
Yeah, I noticed for me, my Google subscription is a conglomeration of several things, which, although I didn't think some of them I really wanted, it turns out that actually they're pretty appealing. So I think with Google think Google One, I get ad-free viewing on YouTube. I get YouTube Music. I get expanded storage space, and maybe there's a couple of other things which I'm not quite sure about. Turns out it's pretty effective. It's kept me paying my $10 a month for quite a while.
For sure. I think customers are looking for that value to come in. And even with Apple One, same type of idea where they're taking all of their services, kind of putting them together in a package, along with the cost effectiveness, that's kind of exposing them to other services that are there, and this keeping that value to get that additional monetization and that stickiness from your customers.
Right. Okay. So, creating an appealing proposition to consumers is definitely an important reason why service providers might want to do this. But help us think through how service providers should consider participating in bundles, what they should be thinking about when they decide to do that, and how they should approach doing it.
Great question. I think the best way to look at it is there's two examples I'd like to bring up. This concept of from Mark Thomason's called brand gravity, right? The idea about how big is your brand, and kind of like equating it to, let's say, kind of like planets, right? I know today's May 4th, so having that Star Wars kind of strong connection is kind of great. When you think about it, let's say you're a smaller brand and you're trying to increase your customer base, right? You want to find that anchor partner that's going to bring you additional customers, get the eyeballs, get the discovery to you. So that's one aspect of kind of going from a smaller player, a smaller brand gravity, to a larger one. On the flip side, there's the other side of it, which is the larger brand, right? That's looking to kind of maintain that compelling offer, finding these little services that people haven't discovered yet, and kind of combining it with the overall offer to keep them interested in paying and monetizing against that one service, right? Keeping it fresh for that service that's there. And the idea is that growth, right? At the end of the day, you want to keep on growing, grow your subscriber base, grow that monetization. And so that the whole concept of either you're the bundler, right, who's bundling all these other services, or you're the bundlee, being the service that's being bundled. Those are the two kind of aspects you're looking for. At the end of the day, you want to find that strategic partnership that's gonna defend you against like the Apple Ones, or like the things that the Disney Pluses are doing, to make sure that you have a compelling offer that, hey, this is something that's price sensitive, something that's giving me great quality, a great choice, to bundle it all together. I think Scott Galloway had it best with the Rundle, the whole concept of making the right decision in terms of how you bundle and making sure that it's strategic to make sure that you're getting that value out of what you're building.
So how would this work? I mean, it's clear, I think I understand how Amazon Channels work. So maybe we'll talk about that in just a second, just to make sure that we're all on the same page there. But I'm a little uncertain how this works. If I identify a strategic partner that I might want to create a bundle with, how do I go about executing on that? Do I have to handle payments for them? How does that work?
Right. I mean, there are challenges, right? There are things that you need to put work into. And I think that's one of the things that's, keeping bundles at bay right now. Like when you think about it, there's the partner management side of it, right? How do you find and discover the right partner? What are the commercials that you need to come to terms with? How do you kind of figure out, what is that revenue share that happens with the bundles you're creating? And there's different aspects that you can have there, around either rev share or flat rate fees. It all depends how you want to bundle the two together. And then there's also how do you be agile in terms of that subscription price, right? How do you make sure that the price you're offering, you have the price sensitivity there? Is there a discount that you're looking to offer for that given bundle? Is there a way to actually provide a free trial for that? How do you combine that together? And there's also the service provisioning side, right? It's great if you have a single platform where everyone's putting in content, but how do you do it if it's a completely different app, which has a different journey altogether in terms of the sign up? So you need that way to either have that service provisioning, have some way to kind of let them know that, hey, this was bought as part of a bundle. How do I go ahead and set this user up with this service, this entitlement that they bought from me? And so there's different ways to do it. There's different examples when it comes to redemption. The greatest thing would be just you have a single sign-on, that you have a single identity. I can log in and get access to these services without having to create a new identity. But you get the need for services to maintain that user identity, right? Maintain that user for themselves. And so for those, if there's a clean way to pair them, you see a lot of that happening with what Disney's doing with with all the operators right now, where you can sign up and link the two together, or sign up with the operators and time together. So those things are there. You've seen that with HBO Max as well. So those are the abilities to kind of say, okay, I'm here to put an identity, figure out the entitlement, and go ahead with the user journey in the other app. The other benefit too is that if they happen to break away from the bundle, you still maintain that identity separately, and you can find another way to kind of get the entitlement for that user as well.
So I noticed Todd Doherty made a comment in the chat about value bundles and not going back to the old pay TV big tier plans. And consumers certainly don't seem to want that. But this really poses a very difficult question for operators. It's balancing the expanded reach that a bundle potentially brings with how much of a discount, because you're going to have to offer a discount in the bundle for the bundle to be worthwhile, right? How do you sort of think through that equation?
Well, I think, you know, a lot of it comes down to how you're able to get the intelligence in terms of what users are doing, right? What do they see? How compelling is that offer? And I think it's not just the price sensitivity, it's that choice and that freedom, right? You want to have that ability to say, if you are offering a lot of aggregation, how do I have the choice to say, this is the package or the bundles that I want to create without having that extra fat of different services that are in there, right? And so in that sense, you want to have that ability of both, you know, at some point, you know, I can increase the cost and have the marginal cost higher if I'm giving flexibility and choice. And so those are the two that you have to weigh against. And you need a way to make sure that you have the ability to kind of be agile in terms of either lowering the price or increasing that bundle and adding additional stuff in there. That's going to make, you know, add more value for the user at the end of the day.
Right. So the bundle is a way of finding potentially finding an audience that you may not have found before, and or generate incremental relationships, which again, you may not have found otherwise.
Exactly.
Am I thinking about that right?
You got it. You nailed it on the head. At the end of the day, that's what the services are there for, right? You want to increase the base, you want to increase your audience, you want that growth, and you want that ability just to kind of make it more compelling, build your brand, build the need to be a part of it. Like if you're part of a brand that's bringing you all these additional services that you're liking, and they're personalizing that service that it totally understands who you are as a customer, the more chance that they're going to be sticking with you, the less likelihood they're going to churn and go away, because you know the customer and you know exactly what they need.
So, you know, looking at a bundle with an affinity service, that's one approach. But then how do I think about who I pick to work with in my broader bundles, like the sort of bundling approach handled by Amazon channels or by a pay TV operator? How do I think through working with those guys?
Well, I think the main thing is you want that ease of integration, right? One of the things that you need to look at is as a small player, you want to make sure you have the return of investment, right? You don't necessarily want to do something bespoke for a lot of different operators or aggregators. You really just want a single way to integrate so that you can leverage that across different partners. So ideally, you want to either build your integration that makes sense and it's something that you can easily be integrated with other players, or find a platform that allows you to kind of do that one type of initial setup into a platform and giving you access to multiple different abilities to bundle from there.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Amazon with 100 million US Prime members, I think that's right. I think it's 100 million US and like 200 million worldwide. That seems like a pretty appealing market. How about pay TV operators? Should I be working closely with them? Under what circumstances should I consider working with them?
I mean, there's definitely the aspect of Amazon. You have a lot of users, but there's also different markets that you can break into where Amazon isn't there, right? The subscription, everything with Amazon deals with that subscription to Amazon Prime, and then you build on top of that. The ability to go into other markets, diverse markets where, let's say, Amazon doesn't have that penetration, you know, it's the operators that have that. Maybe they don't have credit cards in certain regions, so you want to find regions where you can increase your base by leveraging what the operator brings and the value that operator brings. And definitely, you're looking at more than millions and hundreds of millions across the world in terms of those connections with these different operators and telcos around the world.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like though pay TV operators, I think penetration of pay TV now is well below penetration of SVOD. I think SVOD's now close to 80% in the US. Pay TV, traditional pay TV is hovering around 60%, I think, and if you add in the virtual MVPDs, that gets you up to about 70. But the biggest difference, I think, is in the length of time people spend viewing with their pay TV operator. They spend so much time on that box. And isn't that audience sort of the laggard, the people that aren't doing a tremendous amount of streaming? Does that give me another aspect that I should be concerned about?
Well, the way I look at it is, there's a lot more content that's out there. You're seeing this even with the Oscars that are happening. A lot of these prize-winning features are coming from, let's say, the Netflixes that are out there. So people are getting accustomed to this concept of, getting stuff over the top, this OTT concept of it. So, as a pay TV user, yeah, definitely, you're seeing a decline in that. But what you're not seeing a decline in is connectivity users. Everyone still needs an internet connection. Everyone still needs that wireless connection. So, taking the focus away from just the pay TV kind of bundling and looking at how do I make these bundles now with my connectivity is something that, you would look at. And, if you can create compelling offers with just connectivity, you're opening up to a whole new base. And even for the operators, taking away from that aspect of just being the pay TV users, get them from another angle where, hey, you sign up to this broadband and get, these set of streaming services for free. Because at the end of the day, internet's not going anywhere. That's still gonna be around. Cord cutting might be there, but you're still gonna need that connectivity.
So it sounds like an operator like Comcast is particularly attractive because they bring you both, right? They've got Comcast, Xfinity TV, and they also have Flex, which is their broadband box, which they're giving to everybody that signs up for broadband with their service. They're kind of ideal because they give you both worlds, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's there, and I think it's a great way to partner and bundle. You see a lot of that happening in the industry right now with these dongles that come with the connectivity to attach your streaming services. I think the natural progression will be similar to what you saw with the Roku side. You make it easy to connect all these services and then make it a payment channel as well to actually purchase those services. And that's something as an OTT you should look out for, and not only focus on the cable side. Look at the different ways to actually access that content too, right? Be it your cell phone or from your tablets on your wireless devices. With COVID, everyone is kind of glued into their houses in front of the TV. But post COVID, when people are on the move or people on the go, you want to also capture that audience from there as well.
It sounds like working closely with a big partner in a bundle like this is a particularly interesting option for a smaller provider, right? Or a smaller provider, because you actually don't need a lot of infrastructure. You can do this you can enter the OTT world in a light way, in a light fashion, right? Just working with them.
For sure. There's, I think it's the whole gambit of, I think one of the things that the challenges for the operators is how do they make the return on investment worth it, right? For someone like a big OTT such as Netflix, right? The return on investment is there, so you see a lot of operators partnering with Netflix. Now, to focus on the long tail, if they needed to do these bespoke integrations, work with their IT cycles, it will get a little bit more expensive. So they need a way to find a platform that allows them to easily connect, do a one-time integration, and get an access to a whole bunch of OTTs and services that are out there to allow them to now start creating those compelling offers, take it away from a technical need to make it more of a business connection, a commercial connection that, hey, I discovered these partners, I want to start selling them as part of my operator offering, and now I can, just because now it's a business decision and not necessarily a technical one.
Yeah, I noticed that the BBC launched, so of course BBC has a JV here called BritBox with ITV, which is a standalone service. But I noticed that they launched BBC Select exclusively with Amazon channels. So, I won't say exclusively. I'm sure that they'll probably do something with Roku as well. But there is no bespoke app. It's just kind of like traditional pay TV, right? Except completely a la carte.
For sure, and I think the having everything in a single interface is great, but that's not necessarily the one application you can be watching it on. There's certain commercials that come into tying into the Amazon channels, right? You still want to make sure that with that you want to also own the user in a sense. Once you give all that information over to Amazon, you may not necessarily know what the user's doing or what their overall kind of experience or their interactions are. So you want that ability to either watch it from Amazon channels or watch it from your own app or watch it pretty much anywhere that they want to, and have that ability, right? So that's one of the things to consider when going into those types of partnerships, right? You just don't necessarily want to put your eggs in one basket.
So what other barriers are there? That's very interesting. That's certainly one. What other barriers are there or problems with going into doing a bundle that people are likely to face?
Well, I think partly, taking the commercials out of it, discoverability of the partners to bundle with, right? There's the technical cost of creating that integration if something is not standard, right? Right now, there is no standard that's out there that anyone can open up and start using. With that, how do you make something that you can reuse? A lot of these smaller players, they don't have the ability to invest in a shotgun approach to integrating with everyone, right? So they need a single way to do it, see that return on investment, and then you want that ability to fail fast, right? You don't necessarily want to create a bundle and then see that it's not working. You want that ability to then change it, create another bundle out of it, and find another partner that might make sense. And you might find that in different regions, there's different partners that you want to create. Something in North America might work, but something, let's say in Asia or something in Europe might be different in terms of how you bundle. So you want that ability to quickly change up in different markets, as well as you want that ability to be very sensitive in terms of your pricing, right? You want that ability to apply a discount, make sure that you can be sensitive to the prices. Let's say there's a change. You want that ability to set up that bundle that way. And there's also the user management too, right? How do you make sure that experience is consistent, right? How do you create this bespoke user journey that allows you to connect and not have a disparate and change based on who you're bundling with, right? And so those are the things challenges that OTT space, and that kind of like limits them from actually going and looking into this bundle approach.
Right. So, man, you covered a lot of ground there, Sumit. So I think let's just go back over one point, and that is, let's talk a little bit about the implementation, how you actually go about implementing this, because it really depends on who you're working with, how you're working with them, whether this is a loose confederation bundle that you're doing with a partner that you're sort of doing ad hoc together, or what have you. So let's talk about that one in particular, because we're not seeing a lot of those sort of looser partnering with between, as it were, peer services.
Right. You're right. Like, I mean, what you're seeing is like really the big ones out there are the Disney bundles, right? Where they're doing the ESPN as well as the Hulu, or the Spotify and the Hulu. I think one of the challenges, what's that integration look like? How do you make sure that when you build it out, it makes sense, right? It's a flow that's simple for users to adapt to and use. At the end of the day, if something's confusing for a user to sign up, or if it has a lot of flaws in terms of how you actually redeem that particular subscription, you're going to have a lot of people dropping off and not using it. So a lot of it is making sure that the simplicity is there. And if you are changing partners often, how do you make sure that that experience for the user stays simple, stays consistent, so they're not having to do something different for one partner versus something else with another? You want to give that user that ability to quickly establish that redemption and that enrollment into that given subscription that you might have.
So I can start pretty simple here doing this, right? So we can make this like very, very, just maybe an offer at the time of sign up, or an offer in an email or something. We can make it pretty simple, right?
Exactly, right? I think some of the value is introducing it as part of the initial flow when they go to buy a subscription, kind of upselling like, hey, by the way, would you like to subscribe to this additional offer, this additional subscription as well? Or if a certain user has a certain taste graph, let's say it's a music app, you see that they're focusing on podcasts, maybe there's an additional podcast service. Or if they're focused on sports, is there a way to connect a sports application and kind of drive that connection to kind of say that we see that this is what you're doing. Do you see value in kind of bundling something that relates to what you're doing, right? So those are definitely ways that you can kind of create those experiences for the user.
Very good, very good. Todd, I saw you enter a question in the chat window. Could you copy that over to the Q&A, and I'll make sure we get to it during the Q&A section. Okay, so those are some of the challenges. How do I do it? Tell me how I actually go ahead and create bundles, and how do I do it?
So I would say, the best thing to look for is you want a single place where you can make this integration. So something like MarketONE, right? Essentially, it's a platform, and you want to find a platform play that allows you to connect once and gives you that access to those various different ways to bundle, either with another OTT partner, with a super aggregator like an operator, or someone like an Amazon, or you want that ability to be bundled, right? So you can find someone who's out there that's looking to bundle you and their services. So you want that discoverability. You want to find a platform where if I integrate once, I'm open to having that business connection, right? And so you want to have that ease of ability to make sure that, hey, there's confidence in terms of how you've integrated, as well as the confidence of the partner on the other side. And you also want to make it seamless that, at the end of the day, you have certain governance in place that allows that partnership to happen. You want those agreements in place that allows for those commercials to be set up, as well as the settlements. You want something that's really easy in terms of, make it more of a business decision as opposed to a technical. Make it very simple to onboard to this platform. Make it very simple to understand what you're doing and getting the data behind how your subscriptions are being leveraged, and giving you that flexibility to change around it. So I think with MarketONE, we try to address all those concepts within our platform.
Right. You mentioned the data aspect. This seems like a particularly interesting area, right? Because, as you say, some platforms very data poor, other platforms very data rich. Does that give you? That should certainly be a consideration when you decide what you want to do going forward, right?
Exactly. I think one of the things is you want to be very data driven when you create these partnerships. You want that ability to understand, is this successful? Is this something that I can change if we're not finding it working in a certain way? You want those insights to understand what's working in different markets, what's working in your market, what insights are, what markets can I now address? What are these different partnerships? Who's looking for a given partnerships, and who can I reach out to create these new partnerships? So data is very important, and those insights are really going to drive that growth that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've noticed with, particularly with Netflix as it enters new markets. I mean, of course, it's available everywhere, or almost everywhere. But they seem to be very informed, very smart about when they go into a market, who their partners are. So it seems like doing that, really analyzing and figuring out who the right partners are is like an absolutely critical step here before you get started, right?
I agree. I think one of the things is, doing that research to find out and seeing I guess the data behind who is the right partner, but it's also that fact of they do that because the integration costs are so much, right? So you want to make sure that you do it right the first time. Now, if integration and that technical kind of feasibility wasn't there in terms of that initial effort, if that was already there for you, I think you'll find that there will be a lot more experimenting that happens when it comes to actually creating these bundles, where you might want to test something out in the market, have it there for a limited time, and then switch it. It didn't work. And I think that getting that data from what you try in an experiment is going to go a lot further than actually kind of doing that analysis on a given market in a certain place. But again, data is really key. Data is king when it comes to that. Yeah,
you bet. Okay, so in the last couple of minutes here before we go to audience Q&A, and there's some really good questions in there, so I'm looking forward to that. Let's think forward a little bit. What are some of the trends you're seeing, Sumit, in the market? Give us some hints of where you think bundling is going and where things will evolve to.
I think we're going to see that continued trend with operators trying to increase creating like a subscription marketplace, becoming that super aggregator, so becoming that source for all the subscription services. I do see a lot of competition with Apple One and the pretty much the Goliaths that are there you're going to see a lot of competitive interest to making sure that the smaller players are creating these compelling offers, right? The last thing that they want to do is see themselves drift away. So making sure that you create like that right niche kind of bundle that makes sense. And I don't see it just being across a single genre, right? Or a single vertical. I see it more horizontal. You're going to see bundling across many different services, many different types of services together, right? Not just entertainment, but even physical subscriptions. You're looking at subscriptions that might have to do with music and video, as well as exercising, education type bundles, right? Those are the ways I see that people looking to add additional value with what they're doing. Wellness, since with COVID, a lot of subscriptions are there that people are at home looking at different aspects of subscriptions. It now makes sense to bundle those together, because at some point there's going to be additional value that the customers are looking for, and they're going to look for the savings as well.
Yeah. Let me ask you an off the cuff question here about Netflix. One of the things that's always surprised me is Netflix has such tremendous market power. They are on everything. They're in every device. They're the one essential service. I've often wondered why it is that they've never looked to partnering as an additional value proposition for their subscribers, but also as an additional revenue source. Couldn't this be an interesting sideline for Netflix?
Well, it would be, definitely. I think their focus right now is growth, and they're looking at the operators, right? They've decided that their partnerships are going to be with the operators that are out there. So I think their main thing is let's work with the telco operators, let's work with the cable operators and get their product there. Definitely when they reach that cusp, I can see it. It all depends on their strategy, right? They're very content focused, right? A lot of Netflix, a lot of that they spend on is creating their own content, and they have a lot of data there. So I think the fact of giving away that user data or that viewership to somebody else and not really collecting it is going to be something that they really want to hold close to themselves. So I kind of see that as maybe that's some of the things that are holding Netflix back. But yeah, it'd be great to see bundles with Netflix and other services in the near future, if that's something.
Yeah, I mean, the way Disney has done this through Hulu, well, as with Hulu as one of the access points, just seems like a very, very savvy way to go about it. It just seems like it's a great opportunity for Netflix as well. Anyway, let's go to audience Q&A. So Laura, can we put the poll up while we address the questions? There's the poll. Let's see. And we have a bonus question there at the end. Okay, so first questions. Louise Nemshov, thanks Louise, great question. What are the main deal terms that need to be negotiated in a bundling agreement?
So that's a good one. I think in a bundle, there's a couple things you want to look at. You want to look at what's the settlement rules, right? How do you settle on this, right? Is it a revenue share? Is it based on the bundle, or is it a flat rate that you're looking for in terms of a payout if you're the one being bundled? There's also SLAs that you want to look at, right? You want to look at, okay, what is the assurance of operation quality that this bundle is going to bring for me, right? This partner. You don't necessarily want to bundle with someone whose service goes down, right? You want to make sure that it's at that same level and that same type of experience that you expect from your application, right? So those are a couple of things that you look at. You look at also, what is that discoverability, right? What type of marketing are they putting into this to kind of drive that price? Are they expecting as a bundler as one of the partners to do most of the marketing there? Is the marketing spend coming from them? So those are the things that you'd look at overall in terms of structuring that deal to make sure that, again, at the end of the day, you're looking for that growth, and you want to make sure that, that contract is in a place that's going to allow for that growth for your business.
Right. Todd, thank you for copying the question over Todd Doherty. He says, do you see the recent rise of payment walls encouraging consumers to discover bundles for the content they want, or sharing their entitlements to limit these barriers?
Well, for me personally, I'm not a fan of those payment walls, especially when it comes to news articles. I do see that being a driver to go with something like an Apple News, right, where there's an aggregator of subscriptions that way. I think it works there. I think one thing you want to do is you want to avoid disappointing the consumer, right? So there's a fine line in terms of, what kind of stops the customer from coming back to your site because, hey, you're not getting as much value for it. So you need to make sure that you expose that value, and then also kind of say, okay, here's a way. And you're finding out that discoverability of what else you get is key as well, right? You know, is there a way to provide that ability to kind of combine something that they know of? Let's say it's another site that they're visiting before a paywall comes up. Is there a way to kind of share that information and provide that connection that way, or that partnership that way?
It really seems like there's an opportunity here to do incremental payments, and this is a mystery to me. Like, I go to many news sites, and before they'll let me read the content, they want me to subscribe. Well, you know, I subscribe to the Wall Street Journal and I'm a local newspaper. Do I really want to subscribe to another site? But I might be willing to part with 25 cents or, you know, something to read that one particular article. And I know we had a session here on Let's Do Lunch about Strum, a new service that is looking at doing incremental payments. It seems like this is a missed opportunity, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, I think this is flexibility. Like, if you're able to support that offering, right? Is it that transactional thing that you can support, or even as as kind of like a conjunction with another service, right? Like, can you give you like a daily subscription or something that's tied to one? Again, it's the whole setup that's really gonna, like, do I really want to go through the whole process of signing up, putting in my information, the credentials to get access to this article, right? And doing that for such a small amount. So that's some of the things that you need to balance between the two of them, right? I think in that sense, that's why you see a lot of like the news aggregation services, Apple News being one of them. You see a lot of people signing up to that because you have that ability that I don't have to worry about paywalls. I can get all that content that's kind of catered to me as well. So a lot of it's also that focus on that user experience to drive that as well. I see that being more of an opportunity than actually just like the single smaller kind of transactional payments.
Right, right. Todd had an interesting follow-up question, and I've pondered this as well. He says, do you see exposing entitlements, e.g. what a consumer already owns, for vendors to extend existing bundles instead of only offering a bundle at the original point of offer? Of course, consumers would need to be encouraged to opt in. You see this as a possible future?
Well, I mean, yes, I think a lot of it also kind of deals with the privacy aspect of it, right? Like, how much do you want to let a third party know about it? So I think the best thing is that whoever is the source of that, like, that's essentially the bundle or the aggregator of the different services, right? They're the ones that you've already opted into, kind of saying, here are, I know your taste graph, I know what you're consuming. I think it goes beyond just the entitlements. Focus on what the user's doing, right? And then kind of drive the value that way. Again, going back to that example, like, if I'm watching a lot of sports, right? Maybe a sports podcast or maybe a sports newspaper subscription makes sense, or maybe a subscription to a particular sports team would be something that I'm looking at. But that's something I would say you want to make sure that you're not sharing that data. You don't want to feel like you're giving away that data. It's that whole thing that's happening with cookies and privacy and that advertising, that everyone kind of sharing their data. You want to make sure that it's controlled. You're providing a reason of why you're collecting that information, what you're going to do with them, and giving the users that option to opt out if they wanted to. Privacy is a big thing, and you want to make sure that you manage that without it becoming something that's a defector for your service.
Right, right. Okay, that's great. So we're just about out of time, so I think we should probably take a look at the poll results here. Okay, so I asked how many people have signed up to a service through Amazon channels or the Roku channel. That's where you can sign up for additional SVOD content, and it looks like most haven't. Looks like about 3 in 5 have not, and it looks like yes via Amazon 16%. The Roku channel, wow, I'm surprised. The Roku channel is really being used a lot, and much less through pay TV operators, but I have a suspicion that may just be our audience, right? Okay, so what would motivate you the most to buy a bundle of SVOD channels? Well, I don't think this is any surprise, right, Sumit?
Exactly, save money. That's the big thing, right? I myself have like about 12 or 15 subscriptions. If I can bundle it together and save money, definitely something I'm looking for. And you don't realize how many subscriptions you have nowadays. Like, everything's a subscription, and so yeah, once you start seeing it, yeah, definitely a way to save money is what's gonna drive that.
It's interesting that it's the second most popular response was easy to search across all the services for something to watch. That certainly is a big concern for me. Although I have to say that new platforms like I find Google TV on the new Chromecast does a really excellent job at recommending, although there are some big holes, like it doesn't recommend Roku, Netflix originals, which I think is odd. The voice search on Roku and Google and Apple, those seem to do a pretty good job, at least with the major services, right?
For sure. I think that makes complete sense. Like if you're in a lean back watching your TV, you don't necessarily want to go to a separate app, search for content. I think it's a great way to find things that you're watching. But yeah, I think, you see that with Apple TV, the actual box, the Google TV. If it's easy for me to find my content, that's the main thing that I want to do. It covers things that are going to be relevant to me across multiple applications.
Yeah. And it looks like I proposed 4 different types of bundles: services by genre, adjacently related, like horse and country and outside TV, general, and niche. General's the big winner. Looks like people want to save money on their Paramount Plus, all their Plus subscriptions, it looks like.
And I think, it's natural. I think as the prices go up, I think there's been price increases across the board on all these services. Finding some savings will be great. I'm thinking in the future, once you reach that plateau of all the different, there's going to be a couple of winners when it comes to the general entertainment. And then there's going to be content fatigue, or there's going to be something else that you're going to look for. And I think that's when we're going to see that kind of rise in the additional bundling that we'll be talking about.
Yeah. Oh, and it looks like we have a Game of Thrones audience. More than half of the audience say that they're at least going to give it a try. Wow, a quarter are counting down the days, I'm afraid. Where do you sit in that, Sumit?
I was a big fan. I wasn't a fan of the last season, so hopefully there's some redemption that happens with the prequel. It's funny. I see that 32% are saying that Game of Thrones is lame. I guess they're more Star Wars. They're more of a Star Wars audience than they're a Game of Thrones, I guess.
Well, I'm afraid I would be in that latter category. But I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. Big Star Trek fan, though. Big Star Trek. All right, Sumit, this has been fascinating. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Been a fascinating conversation.
Great, it has been, Colin. Thank you so much.
And Ned, back to you.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Sumit. Really appreciate the discussion today. Enjoyed the topic quite a bit. So folks, just a note that we will be off tomorrow. Our team is getting ready for the LA Games Conference, which is coming up May 10th through 12th. So if you haven't checked that out, it's lagamesconference.com. We will be back Thursday with the Rights Tech Roundtable. So join us Thursday at noon Pacific. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks again, Sumit. Thanks, Colin. Thanks, Vindicia. Have a good one.
Bye.
Yep.
Yeah.